Welcome, my friends, to your seat at the table. I'm Rick, of course, and I've got Susie sitting to my right, Great White Mama sitting over there in the window. We are looking at the PDF Battletech Spotlight on the Crazy Eights, based off of the 20th Act. I don't want to call them Actuarium Guard, but that ain't right. Get your houses straight together. Get into it. All right. Says here, for every Kellhounds or Wolf Stray Goons, there are hundreds smaller outfits just as talented, just as deadly, that you've never heard of, or worse, you have not heard of enough. Sure, the glory hounds who making the evening tri-vid news are the movers and shakers can change national borders whenever they want, but they're not the only ones. For every Iridani led horse, there's a mercenary crew with a storied battlefield history just as spectacular. These are the units that have gone largely unnoticed in the long bloody history of the inner sphere. Their stories are untold or nearly forgotten. Take a closer look into the battles of the events that have shaped the human sphere, and you find even two-bit troops like Wilson's Hussars make a difference. Professor Henry Alexander spotlight on the almost famous Free Republic Press. The armed forces of the Federated Suns prize their ancient traditions, perhaps no unit more than the 8th Company of the 20th Avalon Hussars. Yeah, I knew it wasn't. The Crazy Eights. The stalwart present that compelled and started marches for nearly 600 years, they each issued their regiment's growing focus on combat engineering in favor of their own outstanding excellence in maneuver warfare. Reborn along with the 20th, the Crazy Eights now stand on the Draconis Combine border, ready to test their ingenuity against the Dragon. Barely 100 years younger than their brigade, and by extension, the Davion state itself, the 20th Avalon Hussars was formed in the 25th century and rapidly transitioned from headquarters formation into a battle mech regiment by the end of the 2400s. They became a regimental combat team in 2902, and after being virtually annihilated during Operation Sovereign Justice in 3068, were reformed and deployed as a light combat team in 3108. When the reborn Avalon Hussars first appeared, few observers noted that LCT's 3rd Mech Company was listed on the TOE as the 8th Company, granting new life to a unit that played an important but largely unheralded part of the history of the regiment. Originally part of the 20th Hussars Charlie Battalion, the 8th Company was the medium pursuit company with the regiment's maneuver element. Davion doctrine in the late 2600s adhered to 2-up, 1-back system under which 2 battalions would fix an enemy in place, while the 3rd moved to outflank their position. And while effective in a stand-up fight, the concept was less useful when the Hussars engaged with guerrillas who used tactics and equipment uncannily similar to those of the compelled Confederation armed forces. When the Davion battalions attempted to sweep the guerrilla-controlled areas, compelleds would hit and fade, drawing pursuit into forces into ambushes. 8th Company's Captain Laurel Vaughn proposed deploying her troops in the area operations a week before the sweep, and to cover routine propaganda leaflet drops, allowing the sweepers to then drive the enemy towards her hidden mechs. Boggs' plan was put into action on Carmack late in 2700. 2 lances of fleeing guerrilla mechs, later confirmed to be elements of the Confederation Reserve Cavalry, were caught between the 8th Company and the remainder of Charlie Battalion. All 8 cavalry machines were destroyed, and the largest bag of confirmed mech kills in a single action for the Hussars for that year. Compelled prisoner led the AFFS forces to subterranean logistics complex able to support an on-world presence several orders of magnitude larger than the Milo had first believed possible. Though no personnel were present, hundreds of tons of stores were captured, destroyed. The capture of an intercurrently compelled-born mech warrior proved to be an immense propaganda coup, and the Federated Suns kept them as a prison a secret till after the Confederation issued a horrific denial to the Starfleet Council. This success ensured Vong's meteoric rise and ended her career commanding Davion Light Guards. Right. And established reputation, the 8th Company is the 8th Crazy Eights, with their willingness to remain hidden within their battle mechs deep in unsecured territory for weeks or more. Take that into a moment. Consider that. You see these in literature every now and then, stories that come up over the decades. Mech warriors who basically plant themselves in their mech for extended periods of time and remain hidden. How that must have felt or been for the person involved. Can you imagine a light mech pilot stuck in his or her mech for 3 or 4 days or a week with no real room to maneuver, no real, you can't lay down and sleep. Imagine going to having to go to the bathroom. These things you got to crawl out and go, I don't know, take a dump off the shoulder or down into the brush and get back in, or you're managing it in your cockpit somehow. I just think that would be incredibly taxing on anybody. Um, Using tells developed by Vogue, the 20th Avalon Hussars gained a reputation as anti-guerrilla specialists, combining hearts and minds operations, the genesis of the regiment's engineering expertise with the carefully planned combat operations of short duration, high intensity. Compelling infiltration of the march was never fully halted during the Star League era, but was severely curtailed to the remaining years of the League. Anti-guerrilla operations came to an end for the Hussars with the searing hell of the First Succession War. Goes on into talks about their storied history, the various throughout the various uh, succession wars. And between 3014 and 3026, when Operation Galahad necessitated containment, Crazy Eights made a Christmas raid every December, leaving behind neatly wrapped books banned in the Confederation's LZ. This predictably badly backfired on them in 3025 when they were caught with their pants down. Literally, not figuratively, not literally. Goes on, chase and demoralize. They were fortunate to approach their next CO, blah, blah. Next quarter century proved a frustrating time for the Crazy Eights as they and the 20th Avalon Hussars as a whole were kept out of the war of 3039, a clan invasion to serve garrison duty in the Sarna March. The Merrick Leo invasion took the Hussars by surprise when it fell upon March 3057. They were more surprised when the Lyran Alliance seceded from the Federated Commonwealth. It became apparent their position was untenable as the local population rose up against the Davion occupiers, who had been living among them for years. Hussars invoked the Emergency War Power Act to leave the system in orderly fashion on 2 commercial jump ships, one of them a Lyran-flagged monolith belonging to Lockheed CBM, and issuing legal action by Lockheed, a different version of story emerging in court, etc., etc. Goes on. We get into personalities, various commanders and officers that had served in the Crazy Eights down the centuries. We get, our traditional TONE, Star League era, late Succession War era. Always enjoy these things here. They're always neat to see. We never get enough of them. And we talk about some of the crazy Limp Sword of 28. There's a war chest, objectives. So we got some combat scenarios that you can play out on the table. Battle in the Blizzard, Crazy Eights. No, you stay up there. You're fine where you were. You're behaving yourself. All right. No, this stuff here is for which part of the game uses these things. They're interesting. Like I said, I haven't played Battletech in over 20 years, which is sad. Maybe 18 years. There was a summer I played off and on with somebody who kind of had the idea of what he was doing, but we didn't have hardly anything to. Everything was on paper because we didn't have access to space, let alone a bunch of counters and things like that. We did it with bits and pieces of paper, but it was entertaining, which was the whole point of it anyway. So we're looking at once again Spotlight on the Crazy Eights, part of the 20th Avalon Hussars. Always love these things, Catalyst, keep cranking them out. Till next time, I'm me, you're you. Susie over here is trying to behave.